fire. Hey everybody, Chris with WallowaHikes. Welcome back. If you're new here, this channel is for people just getting into backpacking, the novice, people who are interested but haven't been out there yet. If that's you, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss anything. So if you're fortunate enough to have a backpacking destination where you can have a campfire, that's wonderful. Nothing better than sitting under the stars around a campfire at night in the middle of nowhere. And you'll need to check the local regulations to know if you can have a campfire or not. Often in established campsites, there may be fire rings, things like that. So, great experience. But if you're new to backpacking, it's very likely that you may not have a lot of experience with starting fires. And there's a lot of technique to that. And we're not going to talk about different ways to build a fire here today. But if you don't have a lot of experience, it can be kind of frustrating getting a fire going. And one thing that helps with that is a fire starter. Now, what is a fire starter? Basically, a fire starter is something that helps you get the fire going. Usually something combustible that will burn for quite a while. You can just use paper, things like that, but they burn out pretty quickly. So you need to be a little more skilled to get a fire going. This fire starter is basically the fire cheat code. So if you're new to building fires, a fire starter is going to be really helpful. Now, that's something you can get at local outdoor stores. Even your local Walmart has fire starters. And they can look something like these. I have two different types right here. And these basically are going to do the same thing. These are going to burn for a long time. They're generally going to burn fairly hot. This one's all natural. This is basically just wax and tinder. And this one is a chemical fire starter. So you can go out and buy these, and they're really helpful to get that fire going. Having said that, you can make your own fire starter. And that's what I want to talk about today, making a fire starter out of everyday items that you probably already have in your home right now. Now, there are all kinds of different fire starters you can make at home, and I expect that you're going to find a bunch of those in the comments below because I have a lot of experienced backpackers who like to share their knowledge. So after the video, check out the comments below. You're going to find other ways to make your own fire starters. But what we're talking about today is fairly simple, and that's just going to require cotton balls and petroleum jelly. Things you probably already have in your house. And if not, you can go to the Dollar Tree or somewhere like that and pick these things up. Okay, Chris, so cotton balls and petroleum jelly. Okay, why not just one or the other? That's a good question. Let me show you. Okay, so took this outside. We're gonna start with a cotton ball. All right, regular cotton ball here. Gonna pull this apart a little bit and see how this guy does. Definitely burns. And as you can see, it actually burns out pretty quickly. So now let's try the petroleum jelly by itself. All right, so get a little bit of this on a spoon, light it right up. Doesn't burn. Okay, so to make our fire starter, we're going to combine each of those things. And why is that going to work? Also a good question. So as we saw, the cotton is definitely combustible, whereas the petroleum jelly, it doesn't burn when you light it. If you think of this in terms of candles, when you have a candle is basically a wick and wax. If you try to burn the wax does not burn on its own. And if it did, when you lit the candle, the whole thing would just be a torch. If you just have the wick, that's going to burn, but it's going to burn through pretty quickly. So what is it about combining the wick and the wax that make this work? The thing is that wax doesn't burn by itself. Having said that, as the wax gets hotter, it begins to melt, and you see that with a candle. And it doesn't just melt away. You notice as you burn down a candle, there's less and less wax. And that's because as it gets hotter, it starts to form a vapor. And that vapor is combustible. So that's why your candle can burn for hours and hours and hours, because that flame on your wick is melting the wax, which becomes vapor. And as that vapor passes through the flame, it continues to burn, and that burns off.
Yes, science!
And so it is with our fire starter. Petroleum jelly doesn't burn by itself, but when this gets super hot, it creates a vapor, and that vapor does burn. Cotton balls burn by themselves, but if you saturate them with this petroleum jelly, keeps it from burning through because it's saturated with petroleum jelly, and as that petroleum jelly melts, gives off vapor, continues to burn. So it lasts longer, continues to burn, and doesn't burn out immediately like one would without the other. So that's the how of it. So now let's just make these. Okay, so let's get started on putting together our fire starter using those two items. We are literally just going to saturate our cotton balls with petroleum jelly. And yeah, if you're doing this with bare hands, you're going to have nice smooth skin afterwards. But you just want to saturate these guys. Work it all in there really well. You can kind of pull these apart if you want to. Get lots of that in there. As you saw, the petroleum jelly didn't burn. But when you put these together, you're going to have a great fire starter. But you just want to saturate this. Make sure you get plenty in there. And that way, the cotton will be coated with that Vaseline or petroleum jelly. All right, so we've made our fire starter. Let's see how well it works. Now, you can just light these things, but it's really helpful to, when you're out there getting ready to start that fire, if you pull this apart a little bit before you light it, it's going to expose some of that cotton that's not saturated on the inside. Let's see how well this works. So, off to a pretty good start there. And as you can see, this is burning much better and hotter and brighter than the cotton ball was by itself. And it's definitely burning longer. So with the cotton ball itself, if you'd used that to try to start your tinder on fire, you wouldn't be very successful compared to using this. As you can see, we're burning for quite a while, nice and hot. Using only 2 items you probably had in your house already. Now, as you saw, that's kind of a messy process, which means you're going to have a messy fire starter. So a lot of people will put them in like Altoid tins something like that. Got little to-go cups that you put condiments in. That's what I use. So you're going to want to store these somewhere where they're not going to get petroleum jelly all over all of your gear. You can even use a little snack-sized Ziploc to hold these. But as you can see, they work pretty well and cost next to nothing to make. All right, guys, so pretty quick and easy and messy as heck. So if you want to make your own at home, that works. Like I said, there's going to be comments below telling other options because people find their favorites and people like to share and we like to learn. So definitely the comments are going to be a place to look. And you don't have to make your own fire starters. You can go buy them. But sometimes it's fun to make your own, or you just don't want to spend money on something that's going to help you start a fire. But if you're brand new to building fires, they're pretty good to help you along so you can avoid some frustration. Remember, don't have a campfire unless local regulations allow that. Interested for those of you who have been out a lot, what do you like to use for a fire starter, or do you even use fire starters? I didn't for years. Just grew up in a place with a wood stove. We just knew how to start a fire, but they're definitely helpful. So share what you use. I'm curious. And if you haven't been out yet, would you want to use a fire starter? Leave a comment below. Anyway, short and sweet. I appreciate you guys coming by today, and I'll see you next time.